One of the key concepts that I'd like to talk about, or just give you a little bit of an overview on, is the idea of a core forest. Now, a core forest is a good big, think of it as a big block of forest that has forest around it. So the best way to explain this would be to think about edge habitat. When you go into the forest and you make a clearing, you create an edge habitat. That is different from what would happen in the forest if the forest was unbroken. What we have here in Pennsylvania and in this Appalachian chain, we have a unique resource because we have one of the last large blocks of not undisturbed, but core forest in the eastern United States. We have a lot of woodland in the eastern United States, but we don't have a lot of unbroken forest. And when I say core forest, we're typically thinking of a forest that doesn't have a non-forest use immediately adjacent to it. And how large does that core forest have to be considered to have ecological significance? Typically we're looking at least a 100-meter buffer. And that's just a rule of thumb. It all depends on what kind of species you're trying to preserve, protect, or what kind of watershed you're working with, what kind of soils. There's a lot of different variables. But in general, if it has a forest around it, a 100-meter buffer of forest, that forest within that 100-meter buffer, inside that buffer zone, on the other side of the buffer zone, that is what we'd consider core forest. We have a significant amount of that in Pennsylvania. With the Marcellus, planned build out of the Marcellus, one well pad every 1 5-acre pad every mile, we are going to shred this forest. And the resulting edge effects are going to be so dramatic, you're going to have all kinds of problems with forest regeneration, the infiltration of invasive species, ecological cascading effects, some of which we don't even understand. But we know that the forest that's going to occur after this Marcellus is going to be nowhere near the forest we have today. And the real problem is, the real tragedy is that as a culture we don't even appreciate what was lost pre-logging. If anyone that's watching this, or anyone that is interested in the forest and forest recreation, if they could go back 200 years and see the forest that was here before the logging era, you'd be dumbfounded. And unfortunately we don't have that cultural memory, so we accept this forest as being our baseline condition. It's a valuable asset, but it's nowhere near what it could have been, or what it was. The same thing in the future. We will have trees after the Marcellus is done in 60 years or however long, 40, 50, 60 years. When this forest regenerates again after that, it is not going to be the same type of forest. It's not going to have the same kind of benefits associated with it as what we have now.